Good morning. I'm very honored and pleased to be here. My name is Elie Ballan. I'm the head of the LGBT Health Department and Coalition at the Arab Foundation for Freedoms and Equality. We work on promoting LGBT health and inclusion across the Middle East and North Africa region. I am a person living with HIV, also a member of the IAS, and I encourage you to be members like Elie and Bisri. I've been diagnosed 12 years ago. I believe I've been carrying the virus for 13 years now. I was diagnosed in 2007. In summer, I was coming back from work, and I got a call from someone whom I used to date and I had a lot of affection for. The person was very cold on the phone. He said, listen, I just went to apply for a job at a bank, and they asked me for a bunch of tests. One of them was HIV, and I was diagnosed positive. And I think that you gave me HIV. I just want to tell you so that you can get tested. Anyways, I forgive you. And he hung up. That was one of the most awkward phone calls I've ever had in my life. I like the person so much, so I was very frustrated that that person has HIV. Before thinking about myself, at that moment I only thought of that person. That how can a successful, young, careful, smart person get HIV? I did not know that there was a link between that. I went home that night. I looked terrible. For someone who's thinking that their life is over at that moment, 13 years ago. I was 20 years old then. My mom saw me and she's like, what is wrong? I said, nothing is wrong. She said, you don't look right. Not okay, you don't look right. Something is wrong. So I was too upset, so I told her. My friend called me and he said, 1, 2, 3. And she said, do you have HIV? I said, I don't know. I'm going to find out tomorrow morning. To say the least, it was not an easy night for either of us. The next morning, I got up very early and I went to Helen. It's the first LGBT organization in Lebanon. At the time, they were still performing HIV tests. And I tested positive the first time, the second time, and the third time. Because we just wanted to make sure that, you know, the tests are not lying. At that moment, part of me was already knowing, because I got the call, and the only reason I could think of is that I gave that person HIV. It was 2 years later that that person actually had contact again, and he said, I'm sorry that I told you that. I just had to blame it on someone, and you were the only one I could think of. I'm not sure who gave it to who, or if it was you or someone else, I'm sorry. But that was 2 years of living with the guilt that I infected someone that I love with HIV. So I was going back home, I called a couple of my friends and I told them, and everyone was sad and everyone was crying. I was still not crying then. I was just still in the shock phase that I didn't know what was going on. So I got back home and my mom was just waiting. I said, what? And I was thinking, should I tell her or should I not? I mean, I can relieve her and tell her, no, there's nothing. But I thought she took half the shock yesterday, so just, what the hell? I did, and I'm not sure if it was the smartest thing to do, because my mom fell into deep depression for almost 6 months. She would look at me and burst into tears. My son is gonna die soon. My son is gonna die soon. It took a lot of effort, a lot of talking to her. Luckily, my sister is a nurse, and she also helped. She sat with my mom, she talked to her, she gave her information. She's like, Mom, you don't have to worry, he's not gonna die. You know, it's very simple. She took on research. She went on the computer, on Google, and she researched everything. Just because she wanted to make sure what was going on with me. And after a while, things, you know, slowed down. As for me, on the first night, I was crying my eyes out. On the second night, I would wake up the next day. As soon as I opened my eyes, I remember, I have HIV, and then I started crying all over again, and crying and crying. I think it was the third or fourth day after that, I woke up, and I was about to cry, and I was like, okay, let's hold on here. I can't keep crying for the rest of my life. I'm sad, that's fine, but I have to do something about it. The first physician I ever saw was not the best physician. That person sat in their office across the table, and as I was trying to talk and explain and try to get any sort of information, they just sat back, they told me what kind of tests I need, and then they told me to come back with the tests. I never went to that physician again. I wanted contact, I wanted human touch, I wanted someone to care for what I was going for, not just, give me all the medical stuff, because believe it or not, I got every scientific book I could find, and I was reading them, I was studying them. I'm not a med student, I was good at biology, so I was just trying to understand and decipher all these treatments and AZTs and ARTs, and I had no idea what anything meant, but I wanted to make sure that I understood this, that I know what's happening with me. So I stopped the crying, and then from one physician to the other, until I was starting to get my tests, and at that time, we did not test and treat. We tested and then let the person slowly dissolve until they can barely make it, and then, let's give them treatment right now. Thankfully, this has changed now. So I spent 3 years without treatment. They were not the easiest. I was tired most of the time, I got sick twice, I lost a lot of weight. It wasn't really going well for me. But then once I started treatment, things started getting a bit better. But still during the first and second year, because yesterday, for those of you who don't know, we were talking a bit about ethics and about disclosure and when you should tell someone or not. Naturally, I told the closest people around me and the people I was actually engaged with at the time, because that's the ethical thing to do. Well, that ethical thing ruined my life. I was working in nightclubs, in a gay bar, so, it's the only gay bar in town, and there's all the community going there. So it was very easy to, spread the news. Elie from that bar, yeah, he got AIDS. Oh, Elie from that bar has got AIDS. It took the community less than a year, and everyone knew I had HIV. It wasn't my choice to tell them all. It was the ethical choice, or so I thought. But everyone around me knew and had put their judgments, they had put their plans on how our communication was going to be before I even started talking to them. So a lot of people would just dismiss it at the beginning. A lot of people would even make it harder to establish contact. It was difficult to have friends. It was difficult to date. It was even more difficult to have sex, because everyone found out and I was at the mercy of their approval, which doesn't feel very right. I did have a lot of friends who stood up for me at that time. I remember one night at the bar, there was a group of people who just stopped getting drinks from the bar, and they were standing there in sort of a protest. I didn't know what was happening, and then the bar owner came in. He's my friend. And he asked them, what's wrong? They said, how do you put someone with HIV to serve us drinks at the bar? Are you sure we're not going to get anything? We don't trust that person. And that was the first time someone stood up for me, and he said, this is my bar, this is my friend, and this is our bartender. If you don't like it, you're not welcome to stay at the party. That felt different, that felt encouraging. The first time I met someone else living with HIV was around 3 years later. I met this person through someone who tried not to disclose to each other that we had HIV, but was trying to make us, meet accidentally. But eventually he had to say, okay, you two are living with HIV, you should talk to each other. It was interesting, we dated for a while, it was nice to finally be able to share things that I want to ask him, like, do you feel like this sometimes? Do you sometimes cry in the middle of the night because you suddenly remember you have something, or you remember you're different? And it was good for a while, but then I realized that if someone has HIV, that's not a good reason to date them. There's a lot of other layers than just someone having HIV. We're not compatible at all, but we both had HIV. So as time went by, I started feeling stronger about myself. I started having more friends who were supportive. More people had been educated. More people realized. And then when the whole U=U came up, I felt stronger. I felt more assertive. And surely a lot of people around me felt that way and were telling me that. And it really helped me a lot. So why did I come out as a person living with HIV? So I'm a background of filmmaking, I'm a content producer, I work in TV, I work with celebrities. Trust me, it's easier working with community than working with celebrities. And then I was looking for a different job, and then someone said, "Oh, you're a gay man, you have HIV, you should be in this organization. It will be a great fit for you." I went to the job interview. I'm not sure, I think I was the only one who came to the interview, and I got the job. The first 6 months, I had no idea what I was doing. I would open up, I would read proposals, I would try to look at stuff, and I just didn't get it. I mean, okay, what am I supposed to do with this? What am I supposed to do as an NGO? And then I went to my first international AIDS conference, which took place in Durban, South Africa. I was blown away. Thousands of people, most of them living with HIV, running from one session to the other, excited, they want to do things, they want to dance, they want to sing, they want to advocate, and everyone's smiling. And people are just passing by and they're smiling. I don't know them. They're just smiling. I was like, these people are really happy. They're happier than the people I know back home. And that got me very excited. And I remember it was on the opening night. There was a speech by Charlize Theron and by Desmond Tutu, and I was just blown away from the masses and from the speeches that they were giving. And I thought, I want to make a difference back home. I really want people to listen to me. I really want to make this something happen. But how can I get my community to trust me? They don't know who I am. What if I tell them, use condoms, take your treatment, go to... Why would they listen to me? And then it hit me. The only way that people living with HIV would actually listen to me is if they know that I'm someone living with HIV. So I went on Facebook and I wrote a long statement how I've contracted HIV, who I am, and how strong I am, and how I want to share this with the entire world. And then the messages came flooding in. People were so supportive. I was in shock. I had people I went with in school that those people you just have on your Facebook because you're supposed to have them, but you never talk. And then you see their kids, you're like, oh, my kids are nicer than those. It was like that. And these people were like supportive, they were happy for me. Different people from all over the walks of life that have passed in my life, they were very supportive. The only one non-supportive was my sister. I was in shock, and she sent me one single message at the same night that I was very emotionally happy and crying and seeing the support. She's like, you should have just put a bullet in my head instead. I was like, are you serious? We had a fight, and then when I came back, we were talking, and even though she understood HIV in all the medical terms, but then the stigma was still there. She said, I can't find a husband because of you. I told her, well, I'm not gonna have sex with your husband, you know that. And she's like, no, but because of you, people don't want to be with me. And I said, no, this does not have to do with it. And it's you who has to take this idea out of your mind if you really want to find someone. And if someone doesn't want to be with you because of your brother, you don't deserve to be with that person. So that's where the community started trusting me, and then I realized that in spaces such as these, I had a voice. And then when I spoke, people would listen. And then when I recommended things, people would want to listen. And I thought, wow, that's great. But it wasn't just great because I had the virus, it was because I knew what this was going for. I felt and I heard what people were telling me, the issues that people were working with. I was a gay man, I was involved in sex work at some point, I was injecting drugs at some point, I had mental issues at some point. What my boss tells me, you're 3 populations in one. And I kind of like that. I do not say that I understand everyone, but I can relate because I've been in different places. And it's spaces like these and advocates like you are the ones that can make a difference. You don't have to be living with HIV to actually make HIV improve. We've seen the numbers, we've seen the treatment cascade, and when you see the numbers, it's incredible that we're still this far behind and we're still not being able to be where we should be. But we still have time until 2030, not a lot, but we still have time, and all this counts on you and on me and on us working together. And I want to thank you for this opportunity for speaking with you today, and have a lovely symposium.